So hi, this is Ian Scott and this is the Rethink Retail podcast. And today we're here with Ben Pashley, who's Head of Store Design for Magasin du Nord, the leading Danish department store. Hi Ben, welcome to EuroShop.
Hi, thank you, thanks for having me.
So what we want to do is have a brief chat really about how you're seeing the evolution of retail. And I was really keen to understand how you embrace the different types of retailers, and customers, and more importantly, the different missions that they have coming into your stores.
Okay, well, first of all, it's a really interesting question. I just have to think about it for a moment because obviously being a department store, we have customers coming for all different missions.
Yes.
We're not like purely fashion, we're not purely home. We're also not purely focused on one customer demographic. So you've got women, men, kids, teenagers, all different shopping experiences and wishes that they want from the store. So yeah, it's a difficult question to answer, but I think first of all what we have to think about is what is their purpose? Is it a quick shop, convenience, or is it something where it's a little bit more time taken and they're looking for some more curation and some more inspiration?
Yeah.
So I think that's how we tackle it in Magasin, and especially as predominantly our stores are located in city centres.
Yeah.
So I think there's also a difference between city centres and out of town retail in that respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think department stores, you have probably the biggest challenge because, as you say, you probably have the widest range of types of customers, products that you sell as well. And a lot of people have talked about the death of the department store, which I vigorously deny.
We don't like that.
We don't. And there are a lot of retailers, Magasin included, who I think defy that premise. And I always think that a department store is a wonderful touch point of how all types of retail work. How do you approach that as a designer when you're trying to evolve the physical experience in your store?
I think obviously being a department store, we're a house, well actually one of our phrases is we're a house of most loved brands. So we're actually a house of various different brands.
Yeah.
So I think the important thing for me is what is our environment?
Yeah.
How do we welcome our customers? What are our entrances? What are our circulation points? What's our navigation?
Yeah.
So I think it's all about how we curate those brands, how we align those brands, how we position those brands. Our flagship store, which I use as an example, is located in the centre of Copenhagen. It takes maybe 50% of our turnover in total, and a big proportion of that is we have a food court in the bottom. And a lot of people in therefore are coming in for lunch, they're coming in for a sandwich, they're coming in for a drink, and it's how do we get those people therefore up the store. Yeah. We do that through our loyalty card, first of all. We do it through digital marketing, we do it through inspiration, and we do it through communicating to them. But it is of course a challenge because a lot of those people, they don't really want to come in Magasin, they're just there for the convenience. Yeah. We're also located, underneath us is the biggest metro terminal in Denmark.
So I think one of the challenges that department stores have is people will come in for a number of different shopping missions. So I was interested in trying to understand how you're able to cross-sell. So someone who may be coming in to buy a sofa, how are you able to sell them fashion or kitchen appliances?
That's a difficult one to answer. And if I had the complete answer, I'd be the CEO. But what I can say is that we do various things. We obviously have a goodie card customer profile. We have 1 million people on our goodie card, and we market them in different ways. So we'll market them to home, we'll target them to fashion.
Yeah.
You can also say a big part of it is flexible spaces. So flex spaces within our store. So so my job is to enable the store to be flexible.
Yeah. What do you mean by flexible though? How would you define it?
Well, a traditional department store model, maybe you would have a Chanel counter on 40 square meters, and that Chanel counter might lie there for 10 years. So what we want to do is we want to have a grid that can move functional around. So we might have a home campaign. When I say campaign driven, I don't mean price driven, I mean brand driven.
Yeah.
So we might have a home campaign, and that would hopefully fit in with something that's going on externally from Magasin.
Yeah.
So in Copenhagen, hopefully we have something that you all know about called 3 Days of Design. And when we have 3 Days of Design, that's a large interior concept that comes to Copenhagen. And therefore, a lot of our ground floor will be designated to home products.
Yeah.
So we would flex that from fashion. When it's fashion week, it will be fashion. And when it's the home thing, it will be home.
So is this almost like a generic promotional creative space? I suppose a little bit like the ground floor of a Nike store where it's dedicated to being a moving feast.
Exactly. But the challenge from there, from my perspective, is to sell in the fact that we're going to have square meters that aren't bringing in a specific rent, that aren't bringing in a specific income.
Is this where your bosses get very nervous about your ideas?
Yeah, this is where it can be. This is where it can become opaque. Can we give 150 square meters at our entrance flagship to space that was previously a anchor brand?
Yeah.
That might now be something that's coming, that's something that's going, a perishable moment is the word I use.
Because I'm always bemused when you go in department stores. I mean, a few years ago, you go along Oxford Street, you would have Selfridges, there'd be House of Fraser, there was Debenhams and John Lewis, and every ground floor was just full of exactly the same beauty concessions. And I know you and I talked about this. How do you see that ground floor entrance evolving in a way, one, to differentiate you, but two, to make it more appealing than just being a beauty mall?
I think that's a really good question. And one of the things I would say is you could be in any beauty hall in many department stores, blindfolded.
Yeah.
You could be in Dubai, you could be in Copenhagen, you could be in London.
Yeah.
What differentiates what store you're in?
Yeah,
so I think first of all, it's through our DNA.
Yeah.
And secondly, it's through, as I previously mentioned, having flexible spaces that we therefore can curate our own items, because this is our space. We own this space. So let's not give it away, this space. I think Selfridges do it really well with the corner shop. We all know Selfridges corner shop. So it's kind of like that's an interchange, that's flagship space for them. I think it's on the corner. It's one of the best
prime
corner,
space.
Yeah. They own that space.
Yeah.
They could give that space to someone and take a rent or something, but they've decided it's more important for their brand that they own that space.
Yeah.
And that's what we're on an evolution to start to do, own our space in key customer points.
So do you see that covering all the different departments, or will it still be beauty focused?
Eventually. So eventually, at all our entrances, it should be Magasin. You should feel Magasin, not the brands. I think you can go to Asian department stores, and it's not really a department store. It's just a shopping mall of brands.
Yeah, like a market store.
Like a market store. So actually, what we want to do is a marketplace.
Yeah.
So there's different things coming on. I think in the summer, for instance, we always have summer drinks at the front.
Yeah.
So we have Aperol. Let's say an Aperol.
Yeah,
we'll have an Aperol pop up, and all the customers that can come in Magasin, they get a little Aperol. Sponsored by Aperol. For Aperol, it's branding, it's flagship prime space in Copenhagen, and for us, it's a great experience for the customer. They're coming in, they're getting a little drink, they're tasting a little bit, and we also sell a lot of Aperol at that point.
Yeah. Are there any categories or departments within your department store that would be a bigger challenge to utilise that promotional space than others? I mean, things like Aperol is obvious, and drinks, food sampling is easy. Would it work with bedding, for example? You know, are there categories where you think that's going to be a bigger creative challenge?
I think what you have to think about there is bedding. Okay, yeah, that's a tricky one to answer, but what is the trends? Sleep. Sleep's such an important thing for people these days in lifestyle and wellness.
Yeah.
So actually we'd tag that onto a wellness concept.
Yeah.
And actually it's a really key one for us because we have our own brand of bed linen. It's the Magasin brand. It's a huge margin maker for us. So we would actually tie in with sleep, wellness, and attach that to the whole category. So when 3 days of design comes, maybe we do a sleep concept. Or actually in January, when it's all about wellness and green living, it's sleep.
Brilliant. I mean, I must admit, I was in an IKEA in Warrington in the north of England recently, and they tied their bedding into wellness.
Okay.
You know, and I was really surprised because I've not seen IKEA be that creative.
No, that is
but there were sort of five cents of rating wellness. They were having mood lighting, they were having scents, they were having calm, and it's really interesting to see that wellness being tied in. So what you're doing is actually selling the benefit of the product rather than the features.
But I also think that that's where actually a department store can really play that upper hand, because we actually have all the different categories of. We have wellness, we have nightwear, we have homeware. So it's about, as I said before, curation and convenience. So how do we curate that through the store in a flexible place that's something new for the customer every time they come into the store? It's very easy for me to come up with an idea of a wellness campaign. I can see it in the trends. I can see Lush just did a great pop-up, a sleep pop-up. But the actual challenge was for us to break our business model and curate that into the store. That's where the challenge lies.
So how influential are you in your role in actually helping facilitate those, or do you just set off the chaos and stand back and let everyone else sort it out?
No, I of course I'm influential in that because it's driven from marketing. So marketing drive the concept and the campaign. And then it obviously has to go through buying. And they ultimately are the ones that have to make it come alive with our help through curating, fixture usage, location usage, space location, etc.
So I imagine diplomacy is a big part of your role when you have to bring in these disparate departments with their own agendas.
Yeah, it's a big part of my role actually. It's actually not something I realised was part of my role till quite recently when someone who was external for our business said, Ben, you're very good at campaigning. And I was like, am I a campaigner? Is that what I do? Seemingly it is.
Yeah, it's a skill you develop because of the job, not as part of it.
It's compromise.
Yeah,
It's ultimately what we're suggesting is they're getting prime location space for no cost.
Yeah.
So it's advantageous to the brand, but you have to explain that to them, you have to give them reasons for that, etc. So
finding who signs it off, which department, that doesn't come from my budget, it's someone else's.
I mean, a good example of that is actually we call ourselves the House of Most Loved Gifts. Again, we like House of Most Loved, you can see that. But House of Most Loved Gifts, we don't have a gift department. We don't actually have a true focused gift department. We have a lot of gifts, but why don't we have a gift department?
Yeah.
That's because the electricals buyer, she buys gifts that might come under there. The home buyer for cookshop, is cookshop things a gift? So again, how do we curate all these different things to create a cohesive offer to the customer?
So maybe matchmaking, getting these departments together will be one of the skills that you'll develop as well.
Absolutely. That is a skill that I have to have, because when we set off to do home strategy for the next 3-4 years, all these home buyers, they're very siloed and focused on what they want to deliver. So I have to think of it as a whole homogeneous environment. The cookshop buyer, she doesn't want to give up her A1 location for bed linens. And the bed linens buyer, of course, she wants that location. But what's the right location for the customer? What's the right location for the square meters and for the money that can bring Magasin?
Yeah.
So I have to think in that perspective.
You wear a lot of hats.
I wear a lot of hats, in that way.
Fantastic. Well, we'll draw it to a close there. Thank you very much, Ben. I hope you enjoy the rest of EuroShop. And thank you for joining us for a chat about your world.
Thank you, Ian. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers.